Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you for joining us. Merci d'être parmi nous aujourd'hui. My name is Kina Leclerc and I will be your moderator. Je m'appelle Kina Leclerc et je serai l'animatrice de ce point de presse. Before we begin, a quick reminder to place your phone on mute until I invite you to speak or to ask your question. And please do not place the call on hold. Available for questions from the media, we have disponible pour répondre aux questions des médias, nous accueillons in Council Chambers, Mayor, le Maire, Jim Watson, Steve Canelakos, City Manager, Directeur Municipal, and Anthony DiMonte, General Manager of Emergency and Protective Services, Directeur Général des Services de Protection et d'Urgence. Phoning in today, we have Councillor Keith Egli, Chair, Ottawa Public Health Board, le conseiller Keith Egli, Président du Conseil de santé d'Ottawa, and la docteure Vera Etches, Medical Officer of Health, médecin-chef en santé publique. I will now invite each agency to ask their question. You may ask one question with one follow-up. Par ordre alphabétique, j'invite maintenant chaque organisme à poser une question et une question de suivi. If for some reason we lose you during the call, please try phoning in again or contact Media Relations to submit your question. Please also press *6 before beginning to speak, as we had to press mute on everybody as there was a call on hold this morning. We will now start with Kate Porter at CBC Ottawa. Kate, please press *6.
Hi there, everybody. My questions are for you, Mayor Watson. Did you ask Councillor Jen Harder to resign from planning? Because you didn't appear to do so willingly, and if so, why?
No, I didn't ask her. It was her decision. I supported the decision.
Pardon me?
I supported her decision to step down, for sure.
Okay, and then secondly, you did run in 2010 on an ethics package. So I wonder how you would explain dropping several of the sanctions recommended by the Independent Integrity Commissioner.
Well, you're quite correct. That was an important part of my campaign, the lobbyist registry, the gift registry, as well as the introduction of an integrity commissioner. And I think the integrity package has worked very well. But what is very clear is that when the integrity commissioner tables a report, Council doesn't simply rubber stamp it. It makes a decision, and in this case, sections of the Integrity Commissioner's report were accepted by a majority on Council, and other parts were not. So this is an opportunity for members of Council to make that decision, and as you know, in the legislation, it allows the Council to accept, reject, amend, alter the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now be going to Eric O'Brien at City News Ottawa. Eric, please press *6. Eric, are you on the line? If you are, please press *6. Okay, we'll be going to Ted Raymond at CTV Ottawa. Ted, are you on the line?
And for Ted Raymond, Mr. Mayor, when did you first find out about these allegations of potential misconduct? Were you aware of that before the investigation started?
No, I got briefed on it, I believe, last Thursday by the Integrity Commissioner, and then the report, I didn't get a copy of the report until Friday afternoon. Thank you.
Ted, do you have a follow-up?
Then, yeah, follow-up. You didn't say during the council meeting whether or not you viewed Ms. Harder's actions as violating the code of ethics. Could you now, for us here in this press conference, say whether or not her actions did or did not violate the code of ethics?
Well, what we did was we accepted an amendment by Councillor Suds that indicated that we were going to reprimand Councillor Harder for the actions outlined in the Integrity Commissioner's report. In addition to that, we also accepted the 4 other points. On item 7, develop an ethical framework, review and make recommendations for enhancing the procedure for procurement, undertake a concurrent review of the code of conduct for members, and report the recommended ethical framework for member staff. And most importantly, what I think the most severe penalty that Mr. Marleau suggested that we adopted was that Councillor Harder no longer be the chair or a member of the Planning Committee or the Planning Advisory Committee or the Ottawa Lands Development Corporation. Thank you.
The question was to you specifically, though, Mr. Mayor, not what Council decided. Do you specifically think that she violated the Code of Ethics?
Well, again, we were told that there were perceived breaches in conflict of interest, but there were no specific examples of actual conflicts of interest. So that's something the Integrity Commissioner would have to explain because it was his report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ted. Moving on, we will be going to Craig Lord at Global Ottawa. Craig, please give it a few seconds before starting to speak. I think there's a bit of a delay when you press *6.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much. This would be a question for Mayor Watson. You had very complimentary things to say, as well as Councillor Brockington, about Councillor Harder's tenure at Planning Committee. So with her resignation, but also in light of what the Integrity Commissioner found, how should residents feel about the planning process at Council going forward? Should they have more confidence or concerns that Councillor Harder is no longer in that chair role?
Well, I think, one of the aspects of research that I was quite impressed with was by Councillor Moffat, who went through 950-some planning applications that showed that I think 99% of them were actually staff recommendations. So the notion that an individual member of council, whether they're a chair of a committee or vice chair of a committee or the mayor, can influence staff recommendations has proven to be false. That just doesn't happen. These are professional planners within the City of Ottawa. They bring forward recommendations based on the provincial policy statement and planning principles and our official plan, and they bring them before council. And I think Councillor Moffat found something like 8 out of close to 1,000 that were not the staff recommendation that the committee ended up approving. So we have a very rigorous system in place, and the vast majority of applications go through with very little controversy. And I have full confidence in our staff and the members of council to follow and adhere to the rules. And as you know, we're governed by the provincial government and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. If in fact we veer from that principle, whether it's the provincial policy statement or our official plan, then those items can be appealed and turned back. Thank you.
Thank you. For my follow-up, I will shift, I believe, to probably Anthony DeMonte, if he is on the line. We saw for the past 2 days we've set records for vaccinations, but also a huge influx of those doses have been Moderna. I'm curious, I know we had delay in Pfizer shipments this week. If we didn't have that, would we be seeing astronomical numbers, even higher, or is it just the composition that's really changed with that delay?
Yeah, I would say it's just the composition that's changed with that delay. As you know, because of the delay in Pfizer, we kept the Pfizer that we had on hand for the 12 to 18-year-olds because that's the only one that's authorized for them. So Moderna replaced that, and you're correct. Yesterday, we broke another record. We, administered over 18,000 doses, and so we keep marching down towards our objectives. So it's quite positive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. Nous allons maintenant passer à Julien Paquet.
We'll give the floor now to Julien Paquet from Le Droit. Julien, please press *6. Hello? My question is for Mayor Watson. Today, Councillor Harder made a statement at the very beginning of the report. Do you think she expressed any type of remorses and that she understands the seriousness of her actions? Do you have any concern that she will continue in this behavior? I don't quite understand your question. Are you saying that if she understood the situation, or if I understood the situation? She made a statement at the very beginning, just before the debate. Do you believe that she understood the seriousness of her actions and that she has remorses? The short answer is yes. That is the reason why she resigned from the presidency of the Planning Committee. She also left the other two committees within the City of Ottawa. That's possibly this was the most difficult decision she had to make. This possibly was the most difficult situation she had in her whole career within the City of Ottawa. I do agree with her intentions, and that she will resign from the presidency and from the other two committees. Thank you. Another question for you, Mayor Watson. So we saw today that some members of council mentioned that there might be different ways to reprimand elected members, a member of council that would breach the code of conduct. What would you answer? I don't understand. Actually, we cannot compare what happened today because we didn't have any precedent. Like I mentioned earlier today, we accepted the two main consequences of Councillor Harder. This was presented in the Commissioner's report. The most important for me is that she decided to leave the Planning Committee. This was the most stringent recommendation of the Integrity Commissioner. Thank you so much.
To John Willing at the Ottawa Citizen. John, if you're on the line, please press *6.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Thanks, Kina. Sorry. How do you, so for the mayor, how do you read the public's opinion right now of the planning process at City Hall, and how do you view claims of too much influence from the development industry?
Yeah, thanks, John, for that. I think just as I mentioned a few moments ago, Scott Moffat did some pretty good work going through 900 and some applications, planning applications, and the vast majority, I think with the exception of 8, so it's probably 99.2% of the applications, were staff recommendations that were adopted by Planning Committee. We have a very fulsome check and balance system in the planning world because we're governed by the provincial policy statement, the Planning Act, as well as our own official plan and zoning bylaws. So for members of the public who are watching this unfold, the fact of the matter is the vast majority of the recommendations that come to Planning Committee are in fact endorsed by Planning Committee. And I would suggest even further, most of them, aside from some very high-profile controversial ones, are approved unanimously by the Planning Committee. So we are very much in a straitjacket when it comes to having political interference on planning matters because it just is not able to happen under the regime that has been established for many decades by the province of Ontario and by our own standards and conduct at the City of Ottawa through things like the zoning bylaw and the official plan. And I think, you know, I have great confidence in both my colleagues as well as the staff, the professional planning staff of the City of Ottawa, that are vehement in ensuring that what we do is not always the popular thing, but the right thing from a planning perspective. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Second question, what do you think the impact is of losing Jan Harder as your planning chair? And what is the impact to the municipal government? And if I could just follow that with this question, who do you want to chair planning now?
Well, obviously, it's a loss because Jan was shepherding the official plan through the process, and we're just about to re-engage in that whole process that we've been at for the last 2 years. So whoever takes over is going to have to hit the ground running. But there's no question that there's a lot of good people around the council table that I think would be an excellent choice for chair of planning, but I'm not going to offer a suggestion today, but I'm sure lots of people will be putting their names forward, and we'll have that debate, I believe, at the next council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, we will go to Taylor Blewett at the Ottawa Sun. Taylor, don't forget to press *6.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect, thanks. Dr. Etches, Mayor Watson, I'm wondering, what do you think of the idea of moving to step 2 of reopening in Ontario earlier than the 21 days originally set out by the province? And if you're supportive, can you say when you think Ontario should move into stage 2?
Dr. Etches?
Dr. Etches, if you're on the line, please press *6.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So my understanding is that there's provincial level assessment of how we're doing with the level of COVID in the communities, and that's guiding their decision, not for a dramatic change, but to move forward step 2 by a few days, and that is likely something we could handle here in Ottawa. When we look at our COVID level, it is down, to the levels we saw last summer, just about, in terms of the hospitalizations, which of course are a solid indicator of the severity of the infections, which we want to be monitoring. Now that we have more immunization coverage in the city, it's important to continue to think about if people are testing positive, are they avoiding that severe illness that leads them to hospital? I do want to emphasize that we aren't yet able to completely rely on the level of vaccination coverage we have in our community to keep COVID down to a manageable level. We need to proceed with caution, so I would encourage people to continue what they've been doing successfully, which has led to this place, in terms of choosing the lower risk activities, using the skills we have to have more distance between people and use masks indoors. These things will enable us to continue progressing, step by step.
Taylor, are you on the line?
I am. Thanks so much. The other thing I wanted to ask, I know yesterday it was communicated to me by Anthony DeMonte that there has been some people who have been declining to receive the vaccines that were available at the community clinics this week, so those Moderna doses. Dr. Etches, I'm wondering if you can say, do you see that, I guess, vaccine brand shopping is a problem locally? And would you have a message at this point to share with people who feel uncomfortable with the idea of getting a different mRNA dose for their second dose and are maybe thinking about holding off and waiting until they can get the same one?
So I think it's really important for people who are getting their second dose to understand that is what's needed, is a second dose of vaccine for COVID. The mRNA vaccines, are recommended interchangeably. When people have questions, I definitely want to make sure they're answered. So if there's information on our website. The National Advisory Committee on Immunization has also indicated that you can complete your series with any of the mRNA vaccines. As you started with a different one, that is fine. That's completing your series. I think it's not a widespread challenge that we're seeing in our clinics. It's a very small number of people, is my understanding. And I want people to also appreciate we don't know which supply of which vaccines are necessarily coming. So a decision to wait could mean, for a while. And there is COVID still circulating in our community. We know one dose is not providing the level of protection against the Delta variants that we need to stop transmission. So we're trying to get everyone to benefit from that second dose. So I would encourage people not to wait. It'll help you, and it will help our community.
Yeah, and if I may add, just to complete that for Dr. Etches, I think to heed her medical counsel well. And again, we did 18,000 vaccinations yesterday. Our path continues. And as she mentioned, it's a very small number to put in context. It's a couple of hundred people over the last few days. So it really is small. And hopefully, with the expert information that Dr. Etches just said, that'll completely diminish.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Taylor. Eric O'Brien at City News has sent in his questions in writing. His first question is, Mr. Watson, multiple councillors talked about the Watson Club as the reason for your motion today to drop some of the sanctions. What do you say to that and to that view among councillors?
Well, each member of council is entitled to vote whatever way they want, and I respect their decisions. Sometimes members of council will vote with me, and other times they won't vote with me. So a lot of it depends on the issue. I discovered a long time ago, when we don't have a party system, you have individuals who maybe are strong allies on one issue and then big opponents the next issue. And that's the life of municipal government. And I've always maintained that you should not have a party system. First of all, it's not allowed in Ontario, but secondly, I think it's better when individual members of council can express their point of view. And I'm always appreciative when people support my position, and accept when they don't, and move on to the next item. Thank you.
Thank you. And his follow-up is, what is the plan moving forward with the Planning Committee, understanding that they meet tomorrow?
Well, the Vice Chair, Councillor Gower, will take the seat, and then, as you heard from the clerk, there'll be a circulation now that there's a vacancy as Chair of Planning Committee, and members of council can put their name forward, and those names will be brought either to the nominating committee or to full council for a debate and a vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we will be going to Nafi Albert, Radio-Canada.
Nafi Albert from Radio-Canada, please press *6. You have the floor. You have the floor. I would like to go back on Councillor Harder's file. I know that perception is important. One resident said that the situation was not quite ethical. Do you think that the City of Ottawa's image will be tarnished by that? I do believe that Councillor Harder made a good decision. She resigned from the Planning Committee. This was the most important recommendation from Mr. Marlowe, the Integrity Commissioner. It was part of his recommendations. In my motion, I didn't mention it. I know that this was a very difficult decision for Councillor Harder, and I think she did the right thing. So you talked about the lockdown and phase 2. Can you repeat in French? So the COVID situation in Ottawa and Gatineau looks, it's good in Ottawa, a little bit less in Gatineau on the other side of the reason. Can you reformulate the question a little slower, please? Do you believe that the City of Ottawa should go faster on relaxing the lockdown because the COVID situation is good? Right now in Gatineau, the measures are much more flexible. We invite the Ottawa citizens to stay on this side of the river, and we're asking the same from the resident of Gatineau. When the province of Ontario will move into phase 2, this will help the businesses here in Ottawa. It will help hairdressers. So I do think that it's okay to visit Gatineau in Quebec, But as Dr. Etches and Mr. DeMonte mentioned, it's always a good idea to stay home in Ottawa for the next few weeks. Thank you so much.
We'll now be going to Sue Sharing from On the City from the Burbs. Sue, if you're on the line, please press *6. Okay, this is all the time that we have. C'est tout le temps que nous disposons aujourd'hui. Thank you very much for your time. Merci beaucoup pour votre temps.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.